the May 10th meeting of the Dog Park Committee. And due to illness, we have two members who are not here, including the secretary, and so we do not have any minutes. In old business, and I guess we ought to lump last week's hearing under old business, we know that the attendance was not very large, and that at the meeting itself, one abutter had questions that, as I recollect, were largely about whether or not the moved skate park would be visible from the homes on Reethel Street, on that section of Reethel Street. And then we received Monday, Tuesday actually, I received, it went to the selectmen on Monday, a letter from also one of the abutters who lives on Reethel Street. And that abutter had several concerns, some of which seemed to be within our purview and others seemed to be within the purview of other departments. And Sarah just went through there and made a list of the various complaints, which include the condition of Reethel Street, which, could use some repaving, some pothole filling, but I think this spring most of the streets in town of a similar nature have the same problem. There is a dangerous intersection with Bremen Street, and I've begun to be very careful when I've used that street, mainly because you can't see well up Reethel and Bremen at the same time because of evergreens on the property of the two householders who live on either side of the entrance of Bremen.
But again, that's not our department.
I would say probably not. There's nothing certainly that we could do about that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that all of that exists there regardless if there was a dog park possibility or not.
Yeah.
And I would encourage anyone with that problem to contact.
The dog park would increase the daily volume of traffic, but we haven't run across that in the dog parks that we have looked at.
No, it's not going to increase traffic sufficiently enough to warrant major upgrades or major changes.
Wouldn't think so. Parking spaces would be eliminated. Well,
I think the engineer said it was only 4.
Yeah, 4 to 5 max.
And that parking lot isn't ever full anyway, unless there's a game right there.
unless there's a game there or some major event in the track
In addition,
area.
there's a parking lot at the skate rink that's much bigger.
Yeah.
So if you run out of parking, you can go park up there.
And don't they, at times, if the event's really big, don't they park kind of behind the tennis courts as well?
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's a driveway that goes in there. That area there, what they call the practice field, is used, I've noticed, by men's touch football leagues. They now have I use the word children because I know they don't like that, young people's lacrosse league that is forming that uses that. And some Auburn Soccer League events are held in that area. So that's a busy area. There's no question about that. But if we took a portion of that area for a dog park, you'd be dispossessing some other user of the field. There would be a potential increase in taxes to residents for the reconstruction of the skateboard park. But the town engineer has looked at that very carefully and said it's not going to be too much more or much more than what will go into that site for maintenance anyways, because that surface needs maintenance. then there is what I think is and I blame myself for not being clear. I think the person there who wrote the letter looked at the plan that we showed and said, well, that skating park is going to be moved to the area near the berm, and that will cause the removal of the berm behind the homes on Rifle Street, as well as the removal of the woodlands. But the plans for that we had seen and had talked about did not include any berm removal or any woodland removal. And if you go over there now, that the leaves are coming out on the trees, it's very difficult to see very much of any of the houses along Rifle Street. And sometimes it is only the second floor of a two-story house that you can see, or the back of a garage, detached garage that you can see.
So when you say plan, what are you referring to as a reference point?
Have we got the no, the plan that was part of our
Yeah,
presentation?
give me a second.
Okay.
Can we,
It's one that you did, I
while
think.
you're
Yeah.
bringing that
Well,
up,
okay. I was wondering if when you said plan, you were referring to something maybe the town engineer had
No.
spec'd
No,
out.
no. It
No,
was,
we used that
I
enhanced,
would think that the challenge you have on that one is you're not gonna know until you see it, type of a thing.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
I don't know, and, I think what might be a good thing to have is, I don't know if there's some sort of, drawing that the town engineer can quickly put together based on something that's more than just a swag.
Yeah.
And more says, okay, here's where exactly it would be type of a thing. Because I think if you have that as an information point, then that would help, settle down some people who have that concern.
basically, we need a guarantee from the engineer saying he's not gonna cut down any of the trees, or reconstruct any of that area in the process of moving the skate park.
And I would also add to that, I think it would be good to then know what's the distance between where that side of the potential the skate park would be to the properties in that area. It looks like there's maybe 2 of them, 3 of them tops. What's the potential distance from that to kind of get a sense of that? Because noise is only going to travel so far.
yeah.
So I think if we
Okay,
had those
that's-
2 pieces of information, then that would help.
Yeah, that was the plan. And see, because it focuses on the track area, which is the dead center of it, you don't see the berm, which is beyond the top of
Right.
that plan. The berm is quite high when it begins, and then it tapers down as you get down near the intersection of Bremen Street. And it is the next to the last house on Rifle Street, before you reach Bremen Street, that is the most exposed to it. But as the trees leaf out, you can see less and less.
Alright, so it's not a question of noise from the dog park with this particular,
It's
it's the
skate
question of the
park.
skate
Skate
park,
park.
which,
Yeah,
I don't know,
Yeah.
it's still, in the park, who controls the park? Is the Auburn Police that go in there and shackle the kind of the gates?
well, if you're
what they-
called, yeah, I think that's what you'd have to.
No, but in terms of when it's opened versus when it's closed, that area, is it done by dawn to dawn, or is it by certain hours that gate is closed?
The hours that are posted are dawn
Dawn
to
to
9.
To 9? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's 9, yeah.
And I don't even know if the gate is closed then.
And
Yeah, I
even
don't
then,
think
if
there's-
there's kids in the
yeah.
skate park at night, call
Yeah.
the police. Like, the park is closed, call the police.
Yeah.
But, like I said, we do need a guarantee from the engineer that they're not gonna cut any of this down.
Could it be something, I guess not a decision, but it might be something to float? Could they potentially have different hours for the skate park as opposed to the rest of the park? Call it off at like 7, might be a little bit, if that becomes a concern, that's just something to throw out there as a possibility.
Yeah,
I'd like to add too, just because Sarah mentioned, if people are trespassing, if there's a noise complaint, to call the police. That was actually one of their concerns, is that the increase in calls to the police station as a result of disturbance. However, I'd like to remind everybody listening, who may be listening, that the police chief is 100% supportive of this project and of this happening, which means they probably realize there may be a few more noise complaints, and hopefully not, but if there were, they're supportive of this project, so I think that alleviates the concern.
Well, but I think it's even one thing even bigger than that. It's in their backyard.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
it's not like,
No.
they, in this particular instance, the police station is on the other side of town. I mean,
Right.
it's, you roll up the window and you
Right.
pretty much can see what's going on.
Right. But if
Yeah.
they were to receive a phone call, they're aware of this project happening, so it's not, if their concern in this letter is potential increase in phone calls to the police may be a nuisance, well, the police are already aware of this happening, I guess is my point. So
And they're supportive of it.
they're supportive of it. So that shouldn't be considered a concern because the police chief supports this. So,
Yeah.
So I guess, what is our thoughts in terms of I don't want to call it rebuttal, because it's kind of a strong negative word, but there's got to be response to this, and it should be something that's available, I guess what I'm thinking about is maybe like one slide that's 2 columns: concern, proposed mitigation strategy, solution, that basically incorporates the concerns that are brought out within this particular letter on top of the 2 or 3 concerns that the one gentleman who had spoken at the meeting had come across. I mean, I heard like 2 or 3 things tops. I did not hear much beyond that. I think he mentioned something along the lines of costs, with respect to the skate park relocation. I think that's something that the town should have available at the Board of Selectmen meeting. That's not us. They should be able to throw up a slide, or certainly be able to talk to how that piece of the puzzle is going to get handled, because I can't imagine that that's not something that's going to be asked, because it's connected to the project. You can't really separate it, type of a thing.
Yeah. And she closes by saying it's their hope that the dog park committee could consider moving the dog park to a less congested area, which would have less impact on lifelong residents' quality of life. Well, that's pretty much the first thing that we looked on when we looked at the 26 sites that were available in the town to us. And most of them were much closer to homes, to many more homes than this particular site is.
And even if their concerns are taxes too, if we pick a fully wooded site, it would raise taxes to cut down all those trees and it's too
Oh,
cheap.
absolutely.
So
And
this is the cheapest option. It is the most centric option, and it's the option that affects the fewest people, and has the noise isn't going to be an issue just because there's already so much activity here.
And if you leave it there, Sarah,
Yeah.
The final suggestion was that we should consider the tennis courts as a suitable area, but after having talked to the engineer and to the people involved with our recreation programs, they say they have tournaments there. Those tennis courts are pretty heavily used, so I'm sure that
Yeah,
the people...
that's not an option.
No.
Yeah.
nope.
Plus, I don't think outside of that, maybe the high school, I don't think there's
No.
other tennis courts
No.
in the town.
It's those in the high school.
Is that right? Exactly.
So, is it possible to get a guarantee that none of these trees would be cut down?
Sure. Sure. But I don't, I don't think that, that there was ever any intent to cut anything down. It might,
I understand,
Yeah.
but it was never communicated to
Yeah.
us nor to the public that area wouldn't be cut down, and I want to see it in writing.
Well, I would say, I agree with you. The town
Yeah.
engineer more or less needs to come to the meeting. To me, the Board of Selectmen meeting has to be, a good portion of it is our content, our, information, but there's a few pieces that, to me, are associated to what we're doing here. And one is, the town engineer needs to come back with a little bit more information as to what guarantees that they can provide with respect to the exact location. And then the finance people need to come to the meeting and talk about how the funding around the skate park is gonna potentially happen, because that's not our deal either. But both of those pieces could be things that get talked about in the context of the meeting, and if those aren't prepared and ready, well then, we potentially get pushed back.
Right.
So is that something, Chairman, that you can
Yep.
just validate, that we'll have those pieces? And I think, are you guys okay? I mean, I'm happy to throw, quick to get, what is it, the 22nd, is that still
Yeah.
the day?
Yeah.
It's the day of meeting with the select.
So, I mean, yeah.
I mean, I can, throw a quick slide together that basically kind of shows the, cause and effect
Yeah.
type of a thing about the 6 or 7 points that I read there, and then maybe just have that
Thank you.
available. I mean, it's pretty straightforward to me. And then that should be, because I want to make sure that people voice concerns, the right thing to do is to give them a response back to them. And if we do that, then hopefully some of this is educational driven, right? You don't know what you don't always know. And then hopefully we'll bring some of those people to a better, high level understanding. And at the end of the day, there may be just some differences of opinion that exist, and that's okay too, because that's more or less what happens with everything else in the world.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you for volunteering to do that. If you would just, once you've made that slide, just shoot me an email, and then I will proofread it.
Sure.
Thanks.
Do we have,
Since we're not gonna have.
Then
we're gonna have another meeting.
the next step is,
what's this about? Because
this is an alternative. This is an alternative plan that the engineers and the town manager and the dog officer, animal control officer, the town engineering department worked on today. And what this consists of is a smaller dog park, two sections, a park for small dogs and a park for large dogs, not to be confused with a large dog park or a small dog park, although they're considerably smaller than what we had supposed before. These would be placed where you see them in that area between the parking area and the track, and would run into the skate park area and would take a certain portion of that. And between the small dog park and the large dog park and the skate park and the track would be a screening of evergreens that would be placed there, which are with the green circles.
Yeah, because my
are.
biggest concern was that dogs are triggered by cars,
Yeah.
and they're triggered by skateboards, and it would only cause more noise.
Right.
So this has come to us as a consideration or as a second option. And I know it's hard to ask you now.
what's the primary driver? Is it the
Well, there are two, I think.
cost?
I
is one?
think there are two. I think cost is one, because it's, you're not moving the skate park, you're only taking off some of the surfaced area, which the engineer says is not a difficult job to do.
Isn't it like a swale that's kind of in that whole area?
There is a
Just to
swale.
bring up the
What
grade.
shows as yellow in the middle of the large dog park is currently a surface drainage swale. The engineer says it can be piped and filled in, and that would not be a huge job. One of the advantages is that it might be ready sooner than the other one would. Then again, who knows?
I just don't like the whole thing being closer to the parking lot. That's my biggest concern.
The
It
large.
is closer to the parking lot. It is closer to the playground.
Yeah,
I was going to say
and closer
that.
to the skate park too.
Yep.
The area between the track and the parking lot also, where the large dog park is on this plan, I believe, isn't that a ditch?
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, that's
Huge
that.
hill.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
That's
the
what
I
yellow
think
we're
area.
reading
they're
the
saying
same.
they'd level it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to bring up the grade,
Yeah.
But, yeah, that would.
compact it all.
I'm not.
I'm not
I
a
mean-
fan of this one. I mean, it's better than nothing, but at the same time, it's so close to the parking lot and it's so close to the skate park. It's just, it looks dangerous.
And it would certainly alleviate the abutters' concerns about removing the berm because it doesn't come near the berm in any way, shape, or manner.
Does anybody know what the square footage is of the Millbury Dog Park?
I can look it up.
Yeah, I don't know exact. It's probably over an acre and a half to 2 acres is my guess.
Really?
Yeah, it's a good size.
No, I've been there, I just have no sense of what the overall size is.
Which is considerably larger than the second
Yes.
plan, which would be,
Yeah, that's what I was
Operator.
trying to do, is get a comparative sense if they said, how much square footage it was. I think we might have to make something to make a call on.
No, it is,
But I'd say this, I think, clearly this is not a thing that people are gonna use 24/7, right? It's probably not gonna be, to me, it's probably, weekends is probably gonna have the heavily usage. I've been to since I just found out about the Millbury Park, I've been there 5 times.
Yeah.
I have not been there more than, I've had isolated time with
Yes.
my dog there.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've had
I
maybe
have two.
2 other dogs max outside of my dog there
Yes,
every time I've
exactly.
been there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're never, even at its busiest, I don't think you're ever gonna see more
So
than
this is
10
not
dogs.
this is not like the opening of Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World, right?
Right.
People
No.
are there 2 hours before the door opens and then they stay all day.
Right.
That's not going to be the case.
They had it listed at one point. I don't know if it's here anymore.
I feel like it's a good size. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah, the only negative I can say about that place is just that the topology of that is just kind of because it's slanted down. The grade is not fantastic, but
Yeah, because there's mud at the bottom of the hill. It never drains. But other than that, it's a great area. We all spend $20 to get registered there, and all that money could be going to this town instead.
Yes,
We're all
absolutely.
spending money.
Oh, I
We're in
agree.
a completely
Yeah.
different town, and all that money's
I'm
Yeah, I
going
agree.
to not going into our own town.
I was I wasn't, Neely was, number 120 of outside residents that were paying $20
Are you sure it
a
was
piece.
outside? Because
Yes.
the number on the tag is the total number
Of the entire,
of everyone licensed.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
then maybe not.
So
I was
maybe
under
not.
the impression that those tags were specifically for out-of-towners, but maybe not.
I don't
maybe
think they are.
Maybe I'm wrong.
because they also have renewals that I think
Yeah.
that's part of what they're trying to drum up
Okay.
is giving people that now pay for year 2.
But regardless, I would imagine that a large portion of their constituents are from Auburn or Worcester, because Worcester
I
doesn't
know
have an
of-
official
yeah.
dog park either.
At
So
almost a dozen people already from Auburn that go there and
So,
legally.
and all that money is coming,
Right.
is coming out of Auburn and going into another town.
Right.
It could be coming here.
Yep.
Right. So just going back to this proposed map, my personal preference is to leave it the way it is, that we have it now. I realize that this new one wouldn't take as long and wouldn't cost as much, I don't think, just because we're not moving the skate park. But I think just for safety reasons, I think it's easier or better to leave it the way it was.
I agree. And you said that this is going to be surrounded by trees.
yeah,
With the amount of children that play on the track in the summer, can you imagine just the kids just going in and out of those trees?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a problem though that's 30, 40 years away from now. Just how slow it is. Just because I live in a new development, trees don't grow that fast overnight to get to a size where they're
Well,
climbable.
sure, but even if they're bushes that are 4 or 5 feet tall, the kids are going to go in and out of those, especially the younger ones, and then bother the animals. It's just, it's, and right with the parking lot right there, it's just not a safe space.
Need a dome.
okay, Mr. Coyle is here,
Just
the
wanted to
town
stop-
engineer.
Sorry.
I am very happy that you did.
Yes, I just
Um,
wanted to stop in, 'cause I did tell you that it would be, my meeting at 6 are canceled, I do have a meeting at 7, so I did want to stop in case I
Busy
could
meeting.
assist in any way.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions relative to
I do.
either of the two plans?
So one of the biggest concerns that we got both at the meeting we had last week and in another letter we got from the abutters earlier this week, where they were concerned about the proposed area for where the skate park would go. And we were hoping we could get some sort of guarantee that these trees wouldn't be cut down.
Right, I think when we looked at this and locating the skateboard park in this area, it appeared to us that the grass area was sufficient enough for the skateboard park. So there's no
Perfect.
intent to cut the trees down or remove them out.
Perfect. That's
Or
that's
move mound, if that's
all
what
I
we need.
needed to hear.
As we read the letter, it seems more and more that the person writing it was concerned that the berm would come out of there, and that was never our intent.
So would you be able to also, I guess there's two things, they're just trying to kind of be able to address the concerns of the folks that have raised this, this area. One was environmental and location, I mean, and based on kind of where you think this thing is gonna land, would you be able to provide a rough estimates of the distance of like, the side of the park closest to where these houses are? Just
Distance to the house or to the property lines?
Well, I would say property lines.
Property line.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, do you have an idea where the property line is relative to the top of that berm?
only what's shown on the
Yeah.
GIS, so it's not a formal survey, so any distances would be plus or minus. I can tell you that it would be in the grass area that's shown until we have a formal design. It would only be
Right.
approximate distances, but you can kind of see where, that level area is and where it would really have to go. It wouldn't be beneficial to us to remove the trees or to do any more grading, because it's going to be more cost effective to put it in that flatter area
Perfect.
where it's already somewhat level.
So where do you think that is? I mean, I don't have a memorization of the landscape.
So there's a tree here, right?
Yeah.
So it would be located in this general area, in here.
Right. So would it be fair to say if we would just use the little tool there and then did a connection from,
I'm on Google Maps. I don't have the.
yeah, but we would be able to
the
see this on the maps online. We
Yeah.
could run a little line graph, which is at least the distance from that point to that, for using the top of the tree and the top of what looks kind of like third base.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I'm not sure what that is.
One
A
spot.
rock.
I think you're in here somewhere, okay, so you want to put a rectangle in this area. And if you pan back over to the original skateboard park, we were envisioning something smaller than what's shown here. Okay, maybe 3/4 the size, because this is a very large skateboard park. And so if you were to shave off a piece of this in here, you could almost take that and drop it in here. This may be more elongated than a square, more of a rectangle, as we move forward. But again, it would be our intention that the trees and the mound would stay.
Perfect. That's just what I needed to hear. Thank you.
So I think based on what we just heard, I definitely prefer
Absolutely.
Original
the
plan.
original
Yeah.
plan.
Would you be able to draw up a new map for the deck? Because the one that we have,
What do you want to
because
show?
the one that we have doesn't really show that tree line. I can't make this bigger for some reason. I can, but it would take up the whole screen. It would take forever. Because this one that we have, doesn't show the tree line. So we just want to make sure that it adds in there.
Yeah, it looks like it shows the tree, so.
It shows
So
one
it's
tree.
The one tree,
Yeah.
It's
right.
just have to zoom
We'll
out.
have to zoom out.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. Can you do that?
Yeah, that's pretty easy.
Because you had made this one.
Phil, do we ever estimate the amount of square footage that was in the red area on that plan?
The red area?
Yeah, the area that would be utilized for the dog park.
For this plan, I thought it was
Yeah.
30,000 square feet
30,000.
total.
I thought too.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Right. And that, the other option that we looked at today was 20,000.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I can tell you, when you go out there and look at it, 20,000 square feet, I mean, it's almost a half acre, it's a big area.
Yeah, this space here.
Yeah.
We were talking about that right before you came in. But it just, the way it looks here, even surrounded by trees, it's just so close to the parking lot.
we were looking to offset the parking lot 15 feet to provide, because of the grading, when you go out there and look at it, the slope is dropping off. So by staying off the parking lot by 15 feet, it would help you with the grading of that, of the dog park. And then we would stay off the track by 10 feet. And then our thoughts were that that area between the track, there'd be 2 fence lines, okay, to provide a buffer. And then in between them, we would have a swale for drainage, and then the tree line area, arborvitae's is what we would envision. So that would be, you know, a defined tree line border. Definitely between the track and the dog park. I think the concept, we showed it as well with the parking lot, whether or not you want that between the parking lot and the dog park, you know, that's something that certainly has decided.
I guess another point, just because I have lines of arborvitae's on my property, too, that's not something kids are climbing into. There's no strong enough, thick enough branches that people are gonna get any footing on it type of stuff. And once they kind of grow together, they more or less, create a fence of their own.
I think when we looked at this, we saw the same letter of concerns that went to the Board of Selectmen, and we were reviewing it to try to see, well, what are the other options? Because obviously we always try to look at what options you have. You want to try to make as many people happy and comfortable with the project. So that's when we started looking at, well, if the abutters aren't happy with the skateboard park in that area, where else could you put it? And then we were looking at the area between the parking lot and the track. And that's when we started looking to say, well, actually, is this area big enough for the dog park? And so then we started looking at that. And you know, some of the things that we had heard, and we spoke to other people, that people use this area in here for tobogganing. It's a pretty steep slope that come down, and a lot of times there's a snow banking here with a toboggan into. So we wanted to try to stay away from that area as well, because again, you know, the standings, that's for years, I guess they've used that slope. Well, there's lots of slopes over here. So we tried, the first option we looked at was in this area. So then we tried to say, well, what if we were to try to address that concern and stay away from that? And then also, now we wouldn't be impacting any of the parking and try to avoid the impact for National Grid, the right-of-way for the power easement, to make sure they have access as well. So we held this area. We did cut into the skateboard park by, I think, around 25 to 30 feet. But again, that park is very large. The only piece that we impact for the skateboard is this concrete section here, but we could rebuild that. That wouldn't be a major issue. What I did like about that option, and again, they all have pros and cons, is that it would leave the existing skateboard park where it currently is located today. It would kind of consolidate all these activities in one general area. So I saw that as kind of beneficial too.
It's a good thing, you don't have to play around with the money.
The
Yeah,
entrance to the skate park on the new map looks like it comes off the track.
Yes,
Is that, if there's a game or an event in here, does that mean that no one can go in the skate park?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's something, again, we could look at. We also felt one of the options would be to leave the existing walkway there and just have the large dog park stop here. We could even shift the entrance over and to the left a little bit if we needed to expand the large dog park and then the small one. So we could use that as a divider between the two dog parks as well. So that was just conceptual. Again, you know, as people look at this and different people have different thoughts about it, I think that's, you know, we still going to go through the whole planning board process. A lot of those things will get ironed out, but that's a very good point.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have too many
Not aware
meets
of the
there, but
schedule,
it
yeah.
does happen.
Yeah.
You know, so certainly that would be something we'd want to consider. Yeah.
what is that field gonna be used for eventually? It's all being
This field? Yeah, we're trying to
regrassed.
rest one field
Yeah.
at a time, and so it's used primarily for soccer.
It's coming pretty well.
Yeah, I
a lot
think we were
of it
supposed
is
to
well,
mow, I think we mowed that today, hopefully, but it's getting kind of long. Yeah. But, so there were benefits, again, the more times you look at something, sometimes you get other ideas and open for discussion, you know, and just see what people think.
I would say this, I mean, either one works for me, just because I think it's better than having nothing.
Right.
And having nothing, and any other site that has to deal with a parcel that has more in a more residential area as opposed to than this option, which is clearly as part of a recreational complex, is gonna have more challenges to deal with.
You've looked at them all, right?
Yes.
They're all on that list of 25 or 26.
Yes.
And nothing on there certainly struck your eye as being a better location. They all have,
They all have their own,
Challenges.
challenges, exactly. Some more complicated than others. Some that may be engineering-wise a better location, but not have the support of the public. I think this one, where it's in Lemansky, I think it's already a major complex for the town to use.
People are already bringing their
Recreational
dogs there
purposes.
already.
There were 4 dogs there today. And so I think this is to me, probably the best location out of all of them when you take all the factors into consideration. And I see pros and cons about the 2 options that we've been discussing now. So I think they both have benefits to them, so.
But then it is, unless someone somewhere is gonna donate an acre of land, and there's nobody within, 2 blocks away from that,
Right.
they're not gonna increase traffic. I mean, you're never gonna find a site that's got 100% of the checklist.
I mean, the great thing about this location is there's ample parking. There's
Yeah.
tremendous amount of parking there. And it's a
The police department's right across the street. I think that's another benefit.
Yep. And we have irrigation inside the track, so there's a well that exists, so that would allow for at least water for the animals, for the dogs. There's a sewer line that runs through the parking lot for a drain, so that's, the utilities are fairly close. There is a National Grid power easement that runs through that area, but I think we would be able to get their approval to be within their easement if that's where we end up being. So I don't see that as something that would prevent things from happening. It's just one more, authority that we'd have to go through for approval.
Okay,
All right.
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I gotta go prepare for my next meeting if you
All
if you
right.
have any other questions.
Long
Thank you.
day for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, anything else that we
So,
should decide now or not decide now?
I mean,
Do we keep both of them on the channel until nearer the 22nd, or?
I'd
Well,
also,
I don't think it's first of all, Lemansky Park, to sit there and say, make the decision, Lemansky Park is okay. As been pointed out by the town engineer and just utilizing common sense, they're not gonna know 100% what they don't know until they get into more of a
Right.
formal design phase.
Exactly.
Right, and obviously there's another, now where that falls on the calendar, I don't recall off the top of my head. There's supposed to be another public meeting after this, so I think as, when it gets closer to a real decision, right, in terms of go, no-go, in terms of moving forward with the grant as opposed to go, no-go, that this is a good site or not, then, at that point, what's the information that people have available to them at that point that they can then go off and make a better informed decision at that point in time. We're not there yet, and we're not gonna be there, with where we are right now and what we've been tasked to do in the next 2 weeks. So I would say, I don't think that showing this picture is a bad thing, and just saying that here's a location, we got 2 options.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not saying which is bad. We may all have our personal preferences,
Sure.
obviously, but it don't matter what we think. I mean,
Right.
Lemansky Park, is where it's at. So, to me, the discussion is, let's get an approval on Lemansky Park, then let's let the town do more due diligence around the pros and the cons of the particular areas, and then from there, well, maybe at that point they have a meeting and say, okay, guys, let's do a vote,
Right.
we got 2 pictures up here, pick the left, pick the right, and here's the pros and cons of each site.
okay. All right, that sounds
Very
good.
Do you want a meeting before the 22nd? That
If-
is, you want a meeting next Wednesday?
If we are going to update the deck, it sounds like the best idea, so that we can go over it once more before the 22nd. So, Do you have time to do that between now and the 17th?
Yeah, this is all like, I mean, I can recreate this, this is
Yeah.
not an issue. I mean,
Yeah, so it would be.
I can create the other thing. I guess the
recreating
question
this,
is,
and then-
the logic
yeah.
question is, of the deck that we left off with, that was utilized for the public information session,
Yeah.
was that more or less left as is? Is there
I
anything?
removed the last, Elise asked me to remove the last slide that had the risks on it, but
Okay.
it's still on one of the other copies in folder. So if you want to put it back in, that's fine.
I mean, would we have it just as like an appendix type of
Yeah,
thing?
and then after this, there was another slide on a different copy with risks, things like that.
Yeah.
I forget what specifically were on.
So I-
With either of these two options, the advantages are the same, because the advantages just spoke to Lemansky in general.
Yeah,
So we don't need new there.
Right.
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 Yeah, I just want to, this,
We were just talking about adding,
the advantages are all the same.
right.
The disadvantages may change slightly based on who's looking through the
Yeah.
lens, right?
this, I think it was this slide that got removed.
And we're adding a slide that addresses the concerns that
Yeah.
were brought up in the letter, correct?
Which probably some of that slide there is
Yeah.
going to parlay right into that.
Right.
So I guess, here's my thought, I'm not sensing we have a whole lot of rework. If we're okay with the existing deck the way it is, and we put back the slides wherever they were
Yeah.
before and use them as an appendix, I mean, what I can do is I can shoot 3 slides over, or I don't know which.
If you honestly, if you just update the one in the drive and then send me an email, I'll just go through it, proofread it.
Do we have, is it clear which one's the final on the drive? at
Yeah,
this
the
point?
one that we used for the public meeting says public meeting in the title.
Okay.
This one here.
So then I would say this, if you're gonna go ahead, I think, as long as we know the town engineer is gonna be there, he can speak to how he just spoke to us. And that kind of addresses that potential concern, that risk coming from an abutter type of person. As long as you know that Julie is gonna have some representation from the financial aspect to be able to speak to how the skate park removal thing might work, then that covers that. If we're gonna be okay with the deck that we have, and we go ahead and we update 2 pictures, and I'll create a slide and throw it on, that basically addresses this stuff, and I can put it into this public meeting doc. Now the question becomes, we wanna just review it from our houses, that slide, or do we need to be in here to review it?
I don't mind reviewing from home.
I guess it becomes a question of protocol.
Yeah, if we would stay with the idea of presenting both plans, and we're not making a choice between them, then I suppose there is no need for another meeting. But if there is a chance that we would choose one or the other, or change our recommendation on one or the other, and by change I mean if we come up with some other,
But I don't think, I put it this way, I don't think we could really, we're no different than anyone else right now in terms of being able to evaluate each one of these sites in its entirety, because we don't know how the information.
no,
It's-
no, and we never will have.
And we never will.
No.
So to me, it's like, it's great that we have more than one option, because to me, if anything, that's more of a positive than where we
Right.
were,
That's another
before I saw
positive.
that, right?
Yeah.
So we have a couple of options, and through the process, those options will get a little bit more vetted out through more due diligence, and at that point, somebody's gonna have to go back to the selectmen and say, here's option A, here's option B, here's your trade-offs, here's your pros, your cons, whatever you wanna call them, and make your decision, have a nice day. And that ain't gonna be us, from what I understand, so.
Right, right.
Agreed.
So it really comes down to, how we wanna, review the slide order, because we've got a few things we're gonna push in there, and the content of one slide to address that. That's really, to me, what I see is the necessary review.
Right.
Yep.
And how much we can kind of iterate over email without breaking rules, I mean, that's the.
Yeah, I'd be careful about that.
That's the.
Probably since we had that meeting last week, we were probably watched by more people now than we would have been before that. And so probably I think we've got to be very careful with how we follow
Right. Yeah.
protocol, and I think another meeting is safer.
Okay.
Okay.
So if we want to meet, so we'll meet again on the 17th at 6.
Very good.
Here.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Okay. Sounds good. Can you do that by next week?
yep.
I don't know if I can do the 17th, but I can have the stuff sent to you before then.
Perfect.
Good, that's
Thank you.
perfect, thank you, Jim. Okay, is there any other business?
No.
I have nothing.
We'll get out of here before the Conservation Commission. Turn this back up.
All right.
Okay,
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Third.
Four.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so voted.